Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, members of the King County Council. As a regional body, our responsibilities are many in terms of transportation, law enforcement, and a host of issues. But one of the best responsibilities is to recognize people who make a difference in our lives and the lives of our constituents. It's been said by others that if we don't have sports, what do we cheer about? Well, we're living in an era when the institutions that we often turn to in times of crisis are themselves the source of crisis. So it's fun to have sports and sports leaders who can stand up and show us how to do things in life and in work. And today we're going to recognize one of those individuals who's such a part, an integral part of this community. You know, when Game 3 of the 2001 World Series was held, President Bush threw out the ceremonial ball. It brought us together. I've always looked at sports as a milestone that brings people together in regions. We represent a district, a region, that is as diversified as any region in the world. It is totally recognizing the fact that so many of our citizens today come from all over the world. But what unites them is not their background. It's what's in front of them, which is sports. That's why you see on a Mariner Day or a Seahawk Day, people wearing jerseys who's first generation from Ethiopia, first generation from South America, Asia, Europe. Uniforms bring people together as we cheer our local teams. And there's been no person who has uniformly brought us together better than Edgar Martinez. In 1995, many of us remember the 11th inning. In 1995, the 11th inning of the Yankees game and the Seattle Mariners were brought together as a team to win because of a hit by this gentleman and Ken Griffey scoring. For those of us of a particular generation, that moment will resonate in our minds forever. I want to recognize also that we have a partnership since 1977 with the group of folks who put together the purchase of the Mariners and saved baseball. In 1977, as you know, was the first year of baseball in the Kingdome. And the Kingdome back then was run by the King County government. And then we had the challenges of out-of-state owners, owners who had no allegiance to this community other than money they may make here. But fortunately for us, a group came together to save the Mariners and save baseball and save this community. One of those minority members of that organization at that time came forward, and he was a product of Newport High School, someone who went to college in the state of Washington, someone who recognized that he could make a difference. These are people who looked back and gave back to the community. And before we recognize our hero today, I would like to recognize the person who laid the foundation and the platform that we could have baseball. Because baseball is a partnership between King County and the Seattle Mariners. It's one that employs thousands of people in this community, directly and indirectly. It produces enormous amounts of revenue to this county. And it's been also a major tourist attraction that has helped us all. So to talk a little bit about what the Mariners are planning to do going forward, I want John Stanton, a local person who grew up here, to share a little bit about the program, what they're looking forward to next year, and then we're going to have an opportunity to recognize a very special guest and a very special friend. John Stanton.
Thank you, Councilman Von Reichbauer. I hope that given we've known each other 40 years, that I can occasionally call you Pete, and I appreciate your unending support for athletics and activities in the King County area. I'd like to just make a couple of comments ahead of Edgar. I often am in a position where I'm introducing our general manager who people want to hear from, or I got the opportunity to introduce Ichiro and Ken Griffey Jr., and what I've realized is that brevity is the most important element of my comments. I do want to thank you, however. This is the first opportunity I have had to be before the council since your decision a year ago to support what was at the time Safeco Field, is now T-Mobile Park. Your decision and the great cooperation we got from this council enables us to be successful on the field and in the community. And it is, as Pete said, a partnership, and we genuinely appreciate that support, and we hope we can continue to earn your support over time. One element of that is a commitment that we made as a part of our lease agreement to continue to invest in the building. We're going to invest almost $30 million this off-season in improving the roof, which is a one-of-a-kind device, replacing the sound system, which is 20 years old, hard to believe, replacing our point-of-sale system, improving the ADA access to our building, which we are continually doing. Those elements are monies that are coming from the Mariners ownership. We believe that it's important, and we also appreciate that over the next 25 years, it will be a partnership in continuing to keep that building one of the best in baseball. T-Mobile Park is a gathering place in this community. We all know that we play 81 games. What you may not realize is going in and out of that park are a wide variety of activities, including concerts, including very important graduations, even a few weddings. We host groups including Costco's $10 million dinner that supports Children's Hospital. We annually have the Fred Hutch Luncheon for fighting cancer. We annually support the United Way kickoff, a series of events in our ballpark that are, again, a part of that partnership. And in addition, during the baseball season, baseball represents a unique opportunity to shine a bright light on important issues in this community. We are deeply committed to and have significant activities around Gay Pride Night. We have had a great African-American heritage event this year, highlighting the 10 players on our 35-man Major League roster that are African-American in the largest percentage of any team in baseball. We have a continued commitment to issues in this community. We host a 5K run that I actually ran in the senior citizen category to support the fight against domestic violence. We annually have efforts around cancer. Our players use blue bats on Father's Day to highlight the importance of prostate cancer, pink bats on Mother's Day to highlight the research around breast cancer, as well as our annual Stand Up to Cancer effort. We believe that the opportunity that our ownership group has, our team has, T-Mobile Park represents an opportunity to shine that bright light on critical issues in the community and make sure that we bring to the attention of the rest of the community the vital importance of coming together on those issues. I do want to comment on one thing before I turn the podium over to Edgar, and that is the team. We just completed a year in which we won 68 games. I'm not going to mention how many we lost, but it was a larger number. It was a transition year for us. We had a series of players that I know it doesn't seem like they were old, but when they're in their 30s, but we traded away several players in their 30s, and we got a concentration of players that we believe will represent the same kind of group that Pete referred to in '95. That group of players that were at their peak were concentrated in age, players like Edgar, Ken Griffey Jr., Alex Rodriguez, and Randy Johnson, all of whom are Hall of Fame caliber players, as well as household names like Jamie Moyer, Jay Buhner, Dan Wilson. It was the concentration of players, frankly, in their late 20s that all came together and created a championship team. We are doing the same thing right now with young players, and I believe that you will see a championship World Series team in Seattle in the next 5 years. One additional thing, we're going to host an all-star game. We've made an application, and we'll host an all-star game in the next few years, much in the way we did in '79 and 2001, and we're going to bring an even brighter light to the partnership that exists between King County and the Seattle Mariners to bring success and championship baseball to this community. Thank you very much.
Thank you, John, and thank you, the owners of the Mariners, for their commitment to keep baseball here in this community. Now the opportunity to recognize someone who just is recognized throughout our region is one name, Edgar. That, you don't have to finish the sentence when you talk about this gentleman. What's important to recognize is that he and his wife, Holly, have not only raised their own family, but they've been involved in the raising of families and helping other families. For example, they set up the Martinez Foundation in 2008 to support teachers of color in Washington through scholarships, mentoring, and professional development. Today, administered through the Technology Access Foundation, there are 148 active Martinez Fellows influencing more than 15,000 students from some of the most diverse and high-need schools in the state. In addition to that, he's been involved with the Parent Project Muscular Dystrophy, Seattle Children's Hospital, Overlake Hospital, Make-A-Wish Foundation, Wishing Star Foundation, United Way, Big Brothers, Big Sisters, Esperanza, Boys and Girls Club, and Mariners Care. Edgar Martinez may have been born in New York and had the pleasure of being raised in his grandparents' native land, but he has our values. He brings the values of looking back and giving back. He has consistently been one of these people who have maybe worn the uniform, but he stayed here. A lot of folks have worn the uniform and then gone back to Florida or gone back to California. This is not just a hero. He's our neighbor who happens to be a hero. He's a hero on the field, and he's a hero off the field. My friends, Edgar Martinez. Edgar.
Thank you. Thank you, Pete, for those words, and thank you to the council for this great honor. First, it's a pleasure to be here and to meet most of you. Thank you. To be a Mariner for me, it means a lot. The Mariners give me the opportunity to become a professional baseball player when I was just about 19 years old. I never thought that I was going to live in Seattle for, I don't know now, almost 30 years. But this community has been incredible to me and my family. I feel that this is home. And even my name come up when we talk about what Holly and I do in the community, but she does most of the work. So I just get the credit. But yeah, it's been incredible all these years. And being with the Mariners, I feel proud that of the Mariners, what they meant to me throughout this career, and what they have done for me. I think that the work that they did, marketing my career, it really helped to my induction into the Hall of Fame. But also the Mariners means a lot to the whole community. Since 1995, all I hear is about families and people. They remember the double, but they remember what they were doing with their son and their family. So thank you for the support you give the Mariners organization, because you're doing a great job for this community. Thank you.
Edgar, if we were in England and you did as much on the field and off the field, they'd be giving you a title and giving you free taxes. Unfortunately, we're not in England. We're in King County, Washington, so you're going to get a proclamation. But maybe before we have the proclamation, some of the colleagues may want to share some moments they have about Mariner baseball, yourself, and their thoughts as well. Mr. Chair?
Thank you very much, Councilman Von Reichbauer. I think it would be appropriate to recognize the member in whose district the stadium sits, Councilmember McDermott, first.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Edgar, if I may, because I think, as many throughout the region, I feel like I already know you. Thank you so much for all you've given the community on the field and the inspiration your leadership and your athletic work has done, but also that you and Holly do off the field as well. It's been a pleasure to watch and feel like I was participating in some way, as I know it has been for so many people. I'm encouraged to hear from Mr. Stanton that we have a bid in for another All-Star game, because my father took me to the '79 game, I took him to the 2001 game, and maybe we'll have to flip a coin on the next game. But those are the kind of memories that baseball builds, and you've helped to build those for so many people in our community. It's been a pleasure to host so many of those in my council district, District 8. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Councilmember Gossett.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. In 1996, I was up at El Centro de la Raza, which is one of the best-known centers for all the people. As you know, that's what that means. But it has been a particularly effective and happy and supportive home for Latino people in the community. So I was at the Jose Marti Child Development Center in '96, and somehow Heroes for the Children, all of whom were under the age of 5 and under, they had about 8 kids speak, and about 3 or 4 out of the 8 said that their main hero is Edgar Martinez. And the Martinez wasn't always enunciated correctly, but everybody in the room knew what they were talking about. So that kind of hero or leader symbolism and representation and support is really something that we've appreciated being able to honor and remember here in Martin Luther King Jr. County. This is the only geographic area, Edgar, in the world community named in honor of the great civil and human rights leader, the late Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. So it's in all those contexts that I salute and offer this special recognition to you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
A leader on stadium financing before she came to the county council, Senator Jeannie Cole Wells, was instrumental in getting that ballpark built.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, I will never forget those days in 1995. And my husband, Alex Wells, is here today, and I had been very much involved. We're sharing season tickets and never missed a game that we could go to. But we were at we thought was going to be the celebration of the ballot measure that would be approved. And we were at McCormick and Schmick's celebrating with the Mariners. And it's just, everything had been going perfectly. The team started really winning some magical games right before. And then we all know what happened, where the ballot measure was not approved by 1,200 votes or so. It was shocking and so disappointing. But I will never forget the legislative session that was called by Governor Lowry. It was, I think, 3 days. And we ended up approving a measure to have the stadium built. Unfortunately, many of the taxpayers thought that we were ignoring what they had done on the ballot measure, whereas we came up with a totally new plan. I was the Democratic sponsor of that, and that's when I became known as Senator Jock. So it was really, I've been called other things too, but that was one of my favorites. And so it's just thrilling, and every time I go into that stadium, I get goosebumps. It's really a wonderful stadium. So, and thank you, John, and thank you, Edgar, for all you've done for baseball here.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Any other member wish to provide comments? Councilmember Lambert.
Thank you. I was telling somebody earlier that I had to give up my original dream in life to be the first woman umpire in the major leagues. Otherwise, we would have met on maybe a different time. But I really appreciate all you've done. I've been with you when you've spoken at Little Bits and other places, and how much community spirit you give. It's really powerful to have people with your reputation out talking about the values that are important to our community, because sometimes those values are kind of put aside, and yet that's what holds us all together. So I too was in Olympia on the other side of the rotunda while this was all happening, and we were talking this morning about the original design for the dome, that we had several designs, and we had them replicated in our caucus room. And as a joke, we took a fry pan and put it upside down as one of the alternatives. Luckily, we didn't choose that one. But anyway, it was fun to have a part in being able to see that stadium. And then last year, as Mr. Stanton said, you have a lot of other events. And I was on the planning team for it turned out to be the second largest private event ever held in your stadium. And your team did an amazing job making that all come together. So it was fun to see it from that side also. So thank you for what you do, and thank you for what all the Mariners do. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Well, again, congratulations on your induction into the Hall of Fame. It is a crowning achievement and entirely appropriate for your career on the field and off. I think today's remarks by the Mariners leadership, Mr. Stanton, Councilman Von Reichbauer, and you, Edgar, have reminded us of the importance of this franchise here in the community. And frankly, it was enlightening the depth and breadth of the contributions to the community that the Mariners Baseball Club give and have given for decades. I was saying upstairs it was a memorable day for me to be there at that 95 game in the 300 level of the old King Dome, the Dome Stadium for King County, and the bleachers. And you never forget the electricity that went through the Kingdom that day with the crowds. That's still with us 25 years later. And I guess it was this week, right, on 1995 this week. So thank you for joining us today. I think we're going to do a picture, Councilman Von Reichbauer.